this is a team from Étoile.
And this is the Deadline Studio at Prime Experience.
What drew you to Étoile? What made this such an exciting show to work on?
Amy and Dan.
Amy and Dan.
Amy and Dan.
And our team.
Amy and Dan.
Amy and Dan. For me, creatively, this was Amy and I first met her on a TV show called Bunheads. And then we worked on Gilmore Girls and Maisel. So this is kind of like where we like left off with Bunheads, but getting deeper into the ballet world. And so for both Amy and I are lovers of dance and dancers. This
I think for Bill and I and Alex Nimpamashi, the other DP, that it was just a question of defining how is this not Maisel? Like where do we not repeat ourselves? What are we doing differently? Other than the story obviously would demand different things, but it was a question just of what elements to bring in from Maisel and what to sort of start from ground zero with. And
How did you answer that?
I don't think we've answered it yet. No, they want a certain visual beauty to everything, but they're not clearly defining what that means. It's just that's why we kind of did a lot of work to try to find the look, particularly of the New York section, because Paris is inherently beautiful. It was, in some ways, photographically, for me, easier than New York, which was a look that we had to find. And it really became the Lincoln Center, and the whole world of that area of New York became the look of the New York portion of the show.
With this show, there was all the, Nutcracker and all the classical ballet was scripted, but that was it. So we had no idea. I went in having no idea what the sound of the show was going to be. And Marguerite and I sat, not in person, but we had to figure out all of the music that was going to be danced to other than what was the scripted ballet.
and creating different Tobias was such a different beast, right? So finding the music that Tobias would want to choreograph to was different than, say, Nicholas, or
Right.
definitely completely different than the ballets.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was such a unique character, and
Yeah.
he's so eccentric that it was what is going to be his sound. And I was thinking of, we were just going through ideas, and I remembered Zoe Keating and sent Marguerite Zoe Keating with a couple of other things. She's like, oh my God, this is it. But she had anything that I even liked, Marguerite had to really feel, or it wouldn't have made sense, because she had choreographed to it. So it was a very
It was great. We were on the
Great,
same
yeah.
page, which was nice. Robin, she sent a lot of music. And my assistant Bobby is the one who really went through it all and then brought me the top 10 hits. And then I would, feel them out, play with them in the studio, and then go to Robin and,
We
yeah. Cindy and Anne brought so many beautiful dancers, but also, the actors that they found that, especially, what a home run it was to find LeMay, because that was the hardest casting, was finding this young 10-year-old girl that could dance and act. And they knocked it out of the park with LeMay. But yeah, we worked really, really closely. I think on this show we all worked super close for everything. Yeah.
I think one of the really interesting things about this show is there was no pilot. We got 4 episodes that we were shooting at the exact same time, half in New York and half in Paris. So usually you know what the characters are after the pilot. You know who's what and what they sound like, and what the show should sound like. But we had all 4 shooting at the same time, which I'm sure everybody found that to be quite what is this going to look like? What is this going to sound like? Dan would come up. Dan would say, "Robin, there's at the end of episode 103, there's a scene with whatever was happening, and Dan and Amy, they shoot to music." So I was like, okay, and Cosmic Dancer went in, and it's just this intense montage of Jack at the end of 103. But we had no idea, just sort of.
I think also that we have to remember that we had 2 strikes within the process,
Yeah.
right?
Extended the process quite a bit.
So with the dancers, for example, we would land on someone, and then they would get injured, we would lose them, they would heal, and then they were still then
by
available.
the time we were back there, available again. And with Little Susu, we had people that were on the verge of kind of aging out in that search because
Yeah.
it extended so long. But yeah, it was very fun to be able to have that collaboration. You know, we had worked with Marguerite on Maisel a bit, and so there was like quite a bit of dancing in Maisel as well. But certainly, the dancing was to the forefront. So to have that real collaboration of bringing the dancers in addition to the actors and really getting to dig into that world was really exciting.
Right, and
Especially our
Marguerite,
first
right?
trip to Paris,
And
right?
we did it, and it was over a year.
Yeah.
Like the casting
Yeah.
for the dancers spanned over the course of 1 year. And I would say that we had open calls in New York, we had open calls in Paris, right,
Yep.
Marguerite? We
Yep.
saw 2,700 people.
Yep.
Are you referring to the principal dancers?
Dancers, all the
All of them.
dancers, right?
Like
We
creating
were,
the dance
that was really
companies
for,
in New
you know,
York and Paris.
when you think of, we had 20 core dancers in New York and 20 in Paris, and they were series regulars. They were on contracts. So that's what we were looking for first, right, Cindy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
We were
And
looking
then
for these
also,
core dancers. that-
right, and then you want to speak about Tyler Peck, right?
Yeah.
You
Your former
taught her
Yes. Yeah.
as a
Tyler
young
Peck
person.
was one of my students. She came to me when she was 9 years old into my ballet class. And when Amy first told me about this project, I whispered it into Tyler's ear, and I brought her in to do actually a camera test for us. And Amy just was like, pen to paper, wrote her apart.
And Unity Phelan, who's
Unity
also
Phelan,
another
back?
amazing
Is he
dancer.
coming back?
That's the line.
So
She came to an invited call.
We had Thais Vanolo, who plays Mishi, was dancing with the National Ballet of Canada when she auditioned for us.
Who is
This
French.
She's French. This is her first, major acting role, and she jumped into that world of the Palladino pace and her native French, fluent English, and dancing.
Yeah, I don't get
which
it,
was
'cause
incredible.
it's
And
like-
word specific. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's the
Yeah.
other thing about casting with Dan and Amy. It's just like word specific, Palladino pace, and to be grounded. And you know that you have to cast one cohesive whole without losing each individual voice of each actor.
it's kind of amazing that anybody could fall into that because it is so specific.
And then yet look at what happens, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like, and not only are you're one country, it's two countries, and then so the cohesiveness of it is just a testament to Amy and Dan and these incredible
most of my-
actors.
Most of my episodes, Thais didn't dance. She had the one flashback in the classroom.
Oh, yeah,
with the Balanchine piece.
And you had the drunk episode with her, right?
No, that was
Oh, okay.
But I had her date out in Montmartre with the
Right,
young man and
right.
the whole montage in the streets of Paris with her. So I stopped thinking of her as a dancer because I had so many dialogue scenes with her, and then I'd visit the
Right.
set when they're in the Châtelet and see her doing these leaps, and I go,
Yeah.
oh, I forgot she's
She's a dancer.
She's a full-on
Yeah.
ballet
Proper
dancer.
ballerina.
You
She's
know,
a real deal.
yeah. And then once we find everyone, right, we then hair and makeup is just like, can we have a picture of who we've cast? Because now we have to,
Please, yeah.
create the look for them, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and we just try to support what they put together, and we just try to make it work.
And different from Maisel too,
Yeah.
right? To have
Very
like an
different.
on-stage and off-stage looks
Yes,
for a
also
lot of
because
these
it's
people.
contemporary.
But it was
contemporary
fun.
Look, but
You guys brought some really cool stuff to the Tobias numbers. You went outside the box to what is typical ballet, and that's what Tobias. That is exactly who Tobias is. He's not typical. He's not going to do what you're used to seeing, and you guys really knocked it out the park.
Well, you brought it, so we just had to,
we
you
had
know,
to
again.
we had to rally.
You brought the dance. we
Right?
just-
Amy and Dan.
After working on Maisel for all the years, we got to know Amy and Dan, and I for me, I just figured out what they like, and so I just tried to bring that, and I just take my cues off. If I can, I watch the movement. Many times it doesn't work out. Many times you go like, what are they wearing? What are they? And we just try to fit in. We just try to get as much information as we can, but
Lots of resetting with the dance.
yeah, but we get them done well, so we don't have to really reset completely because there's no time for that.
Well, the biggest challenge for me in terms was we did have dance doubles. We had actors and we had doubles, and they needed to look like the actors. Exactly. Hair for hair. And Amy Palladino's like, her hair's going to be wild and all over the place. And I'm like, oh, God. Because Leslie, our visual effects person, is like, you can't have it down and wild. I said, you tell Amy that. Amy says she wants her hair down. We're going to figure out how to make it down. And thank you, hair gods. It worked. We did it.
You'll probably
You know?
notice from hearing all of us talk that Amy pretty much gets what she wants.
That's kind of it. I mean, she's very straight to the point. She knows what she wants. Our meetings with her are, Luke should always look like he's ready for a camera. Charlotte's character, she's just kind of messy. Lou is Sylvie Guillaume. And, she just gives you these little
Thumbnails.
yeah, that's where we're going. And we say, okay, great.
And she's not afraid of insisting on detail. Yeah.
And we make that happen. So
Joyously. Because
Yeah,
we're
it's
all
all
happy to
exciting.
be here.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
It raises
I
the
mean,
game, and
you know,
it's
to
exciting.
do
She knows what she wants.
It's a good
contemporary
challenge.
Always
show,
raise
which
that
was
bar.
the exact, the opposite of Maisel, but still on a scale of
The
Maisel.
expansiveness.
That, we're going to Paris, we're going to New York. We need people to look real. We need them to look perfect. We need, there was just so many different layers to that show. And we just did our best to make that happen.
About a couple of years in advance, we knew that we were doing this. A couple of years in advance of when we actually did it, there was the strike, and that delayed things by about a year. But I said that if we went to Paris, if we couldn't shoot everything on location because it's so beautiful, we should all be fired. But we couldn't, and we weren't, which was good. Because Paris is a very busy place. And, I think there are more tourists there than any other city in the world. And so it's very difficult to find locations that are available for the amount of time and on the dates that we require. So we ended up building quite a lot in Paris on stages in a studio that was the first, I believe, to be built in France. In the early 19-teens. The crew, the Parisian crew, they were just great. Every department, the sculptors, the painters, the construction department. And we were a little concerned. We started building in the spring of 2023. We were a little concerned when we had to shut down for the strikes that we might not get our crew back. But they loved the show so much and the opportunities it gave them. Our sculptors had never been able to do the kind of work we did because we were basing it on the Garnier, and they were able to do just amazing sculpture, and they loved it. Every inch of that Paris dance studio, number one, the big studio, was sculpted by our team. Yeah,
It's beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Also, the impending Olympics were kind of an issue.
that
too.
was an issue. That was an issue as well. And in 2024, we had to finish shooting the Paris block that we were scheduled to do before the Olympics started.
And the city was going
so-
through a big makeover, so there was scaffolding and construction in front of every monument on every major boulevard.
Well,
know,
there were whole streets where the sidewalks were fenced off from the street. So it was a very different city for that period of time, yeah.
Bill built 2 gigantic rehearsal rooms, both in Paris for the Paris Ballet and then in New York for the New York Ballet. Giant windows, big backings out the windows. very different looking sets. New York set is kind of a more modernist, like the Lincoln Center basically, and then the Paris is based on the Garnier, gold columns and chandeliers, and so they're lovely sets to light, but gigantic and full of mirrors. So we had the issue of mirror reflection issues was constantly a discussion, and luckily they were committed to not gimbling the mirrors and faking things, but that did require that when we did see ourselves in the mirror, we had to plan ahead and work it out and make sure that visual effects was going to have an easy time getting rid of us. Sometimes we had to put our camera operator in green tights, which he wasn't too happy about.
Conky and green.
A theme song is so important for a TV show. How did you settle on the right one here?
It was Amy and Dan. That one was Amy and Dan. There was a band that they were interested in commissioning, and the very last minute the band got cold feet and decided, can't do this. Our music producer, Stuart Lerman, went and handed Amy a tape, not a tape, geez, what are they? Played something on his iPhone and said, listen to these guys. And she flipped. So we got them to write the song, and it was a very long, arduous, wonderful experience. And they wrote the theme song. And they wrote another song, too.
Oh, it was original?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That we got it done. You know what I mean? With all the obstacles, all the marbles that came rolling under our feet with the strikes and so many different things, that we got it done, and it's beautiful.
And to have our Maisel, a lot of our people from Maisel come back.
Yeah.
That
my
was
my camera team.
Yeah.
My gaffer, my key grip.
Shorthand is the word.
shorthand.
Yeah.
Great.
I had all the same music people.
Yeah.
It was,
The family.
yeah.
The family was there.
And then we added to that the French crew that
Yeah.
was really
Right.
wonderful people
Yeah.
too.
Really great people.
And I think from a casting perspective, it's that you get to introduce a different audience to these incredible actors that we would never, ever have met. Lou Delage,
Yeah.
to see Charlotte Gainsbourg do comedy
Yeah.
is phenomenal. It's
Yeah.
like joyous to watch her,
Yeah.
David Alvarez working with Lou Delage, and then you have LeMay, it's her first TV series ever at 12,
Right.
with Lou Delage. I think it's an extraordinary experience that we get to actually enter in.
The actress who played Bruna.
Maria Berto
Yeah.
is our
And
favorite.
She's
so
am-
good.
We don't have favorites. But
She's amazing. She's funny if you don't understand a word she's saying,
Yeah, it's
and aren't
so
reading
true.
the subtitles. She's just
Yeah.
great.
Right? Everybody
I
at
love
the
when
first
she
table,
hands the
she
key
grunted,
over,
and we
and
all
you're
laughed.
like,
Yeah.
my God, you just want to cry when she hands the key to Mishi.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
that heart.